Disney is no stranger for having dark secrets, scary stories, and conspiracies made about them. One of those dark, disturbing secrets about the infamous River Country Park. It was a real park that got sucked down under mysterious circumstances. No one knows why, but some speculate it was because of a break-in near Nemo. But what if I told you that's only half the case? And the truth is much more sinister. This story will give us a hint of why the park truly shut down that day. So, sit down, turn off the lights, and relax as we tell the story of the River Country film. It had been 3 years since my family has last gone on a vacation to Florida. Something we did annually before the recession hit. Since we now had enough money, my parents decided, under the popular demand of me and my sister, that we go to Walt Disney World again. We were both teenagers, and our parents kind of saw this as a bit juvenile, but decided that it would be fun either way. I could not wait to go back, and neither could my sister. Being avid theme park goers as well, we were especially attracted to the creativity and the, magic, as one would say about the rides here. They never got old, and had their self nostalgia and excitement. However, there was one other reason I wanted to go. You normally associate Disney World with words such as excitement, fun, and happiness. But with these characterizations come counterbalances. After scrolling through OMG Facts one night, I came across a rather interesting fact. It was about an abandoned water park in WDW, apparently named River Country. I was absolutely appalled by this, since I had previously thought of Disney in a more idealistic and perfect way. The water park was directly on the shores of Bay Lake, being that huge, snake-knit body of water adjacent to the Magic Kingdom. River Country was, and still is, on the same side as the theme park just mentioned, but right next to a resort called Walt Disney's Front Wilderness Resort. Surrounding the theme park on the resort site is a large, green wall, with signs dotting it. The place opened in 1976 and used water from Bay Lake in most of the park's attractions. It was very rustic and wilderness-based in design, and contained artificial rock that resembled those used on another attraction, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. There was a dam present to keep chunks of dirt and mud from getting into the water too, so guests don't have to worry about swimming in an artificial bar created by water from the lake. It was open for 25 years, closing its doors in 2001, and in 2005 a statement released by Disney said that the park would be closed for good. So for about 11 years, River Country had been sitting abandoned. Nature in its advanced stages of reclaiming the area, but the slides remain, and so do the artificial rocks and the small pond, now a swamp that was used for swimming. Many urban explorers have infiltrated the area, jumping over the walls to get footage of the abandoned pond. One of the most controversial things about the park nowadays is why it closed in the first place, which is what I was destined to find out. I tried to see some real footage of the area before it closed as well, since from what I heard, it was a very joyous and bustling with tourists, compared to its ghost town status today. I was without internet at the time, so about 2 days before we were planning to leave, I went to the local library, which archived many old videos that people in my community had dug up in their attics and donated to the library to be part of a small historical society. Hoping that I might find some good footage, I asked the librarian if they happened to carry any videos containing verifications. She nodded and brought me to a small section containing many old VCR cassettes and a few DVDs there and here and there. After about half an hour of searching, I finally came across a cassette with the words "The Old-Fashioned Swimming Hood" inscribed on top of it. This was a term used to describe river country during its glory days. So I took it, almost certain that it was the phrase I was looking for. I asked the librarian if I could sign it out, but she told me that the historical fields had to stay in the library. I could, however, watch the video in a small convenience room behind the front desk. The librarian led me into the windowless room, and I took a seat in front of the television. She left the room and closed the door so the audio would not disturb any of the other library patrons. I popped the cassette into the VCR under the TV and turned the light so I could see the video better. I was expecting the quality to be low quality anyways. For about half a minute or so, the screen was gray and was accompanied with a loud beeping noise, typical for old VCR cassettes. The gray soon disappeared, showing footage of two individuals in front of the entrance to river country. They were both men, and it was either very late at night or very early in the morning, as nobody else was in the park. Very few of the park's lights were on either. On the bottom left corner of the screen, the date November 1st, 2001 was displayed. This was significant because the water park closed for good the next day, on November 2nd. The two men were talking about how they had been denied entrance to the park in the morning, since it had reached its guest capacity limit. They also stated that at only these hours of night could they get past the park security. The two men walked up to the bigger water slides in the park, which led directly into the pond, slumped by the green water of Bay Lake. Once they got on top of the slide, which was encased by artificial orange rods, one man prepared to slide down. The two laughed over what seemed to be an inside joke, and finally the cameraman ended up pushing his friend down. I heard him screaming like as he descended into the pond. The cameraman then proceeded back to the way they came to get to the slides, and across a bridge that traveled the small lagoon. He ended up back at the parcel, where the sound of a splash was heard. This is where the video started to unsettle me. After waiting at the shore of the pond for about 3 minutes, nobody resurfaced. The cameraman began to cry his friend's name frantically and started to run back to get help at the front wilderness resort. He stopped abruptly though at what seems to be the kiddie area, a small side pond, of hearing a faint cough. He instantly turned around and saw a barely visible shadow about 10 or so feet behind him. Relieved, the cameraman started to approach his friend, glad that he was okay. But then he abruptly halted in his tracks. The friend's head was hanging down, and he slowly inched it back up. The cameraman started to hyperventilate as the features of the other man's face began to show. Crimson, dry blood was caked around his mouth, and some have even been dripping off his chin. He was missing all of his hair as well, but one of the most disturbing parts of this image was that there were patches of skin missing that would fill parts of the man's skull and jawbone, and he was even missing his right eye, leaving an empty socket. I began to become severely nervous at the sight of this, to the point where I was swallowing my own vomit. My heart also began to race as fear started to settle in my body. As the last minutes of the film approached, the horrendous figure murmured something that sounded like, "There was no hope under the water." With that, the cameraman ran for his life, wheezing and panicking throughout his ordeal. I wanted to turn the television on myself, so I bolted to the door leading out of the room. I reached for the door, but paused. The television was giving out a sound of an old furnace found in the basement of a house. Just in a softer tone. This tone, for some unknown reason, kept me from moving anywhere. I just stared blankly at the television. The cameraman was still sprinking, but did not seem to be making any progress. He had ended up back at the large pond where the slide had dumped his friend. You could hear him sobbing softly, fearing for his life. Suddenly, the tape began to gradually slow down as the man frequently looked from side to side. The audio volume, along with the furnace sound, went up as the video lagged. Hastily, the cameraman turned all the way around and shrieked at the sight of what was used to be his friend. The video paused on this frame, exposing the caked blood all over the other man's face. The top of his skull bone was now completely exposed, his right eye still missing. His mouth was wide open, and coming from it, what looked like a combination of the water from Bay Lake and bile. This stayed on the screen for about 10 seconds and switched to a black screen, displaying one single message. The epidemic begins today. Instantly, the lights went out, and I was left alone in the darkness of the conference room. I became so terrified that I could not see a thing. I could not see the door either. I began to shake in absolute fear. River Country has been closed because of this, and it was obvious. Walt Disney World has been keeping a disgusting secret. I was to the other side of the room, disoriented. But all I felt was a warm breath seeping down my neck, and the smell of bile.